Boker Tov. Today's daf is Daf Lamed Zion. In the Dharma is looking for a four shlemer for Yom Tov Littman, then Dvar Fege Chaya. Now we'll start on here. My Gemara is pages are messed up here. I see they have a few days comes after Lamed Zion. Must be a mistake here. Put an extra daf. Anyway, it's an old shas. So we'll start with the Gemara at the bottom of Lamed Vav base, about 5 months from down the page. The Mishnah said, if Reuven cannot have enough from Shimon, either Reuven swore he's not going to have enough from Shimon, or Shimon forswore that Reuven can't have enough from him. She could teach him midrash. Teach him midrash, the Mechilta, the Sifri midrash, halachas v'agaros. Halachas, agaros, all the Gemara. In other words, he could teach him Torah, even though Shimon cannot give any anah to Reuven, but he could teach him Torah because mitzvah slav laheset knew. That's a mitzvah. Malam the midrash, mitzvah slav laheset who said the Ram. So that he could do, but he can't teach him chumash. Why? Because he's giving him an anah. Either way, he's giving him an anah. He's teaching him Torah. Don't we all get pleasure from learning Torah? People, it's a place where they get paid to teach chumash, but not to get paid to get midrash. So the more my piska, how is that definite? You're talking about a particular place, so that's the place. And you're giving you halacha over here. You're saying that you could teach him general, almost all halachas, gemara, midrash. You could teach him, but can't teach him chumash. Why? Because it's a place where they get paid for the chumash, but not for that. So that's that particular place. Don't tell me a halacha about a particular place if that's the deal there. Tell me in general halacha that applies to every place. Why? How do you make that a definite halacha? Says the Gemara, Kamash Malon, is teaching me this. The truth is that in many places maybe they don't get paid for any part of learning Torah. But even in a place where they get paid for chumash, even a place where they get schar kama. On Chum, even a place where they get paid, you're only allowed to get paid for chumash, but you can't get paid for the rest of the Torah, for teaching us the Torah. Why? Why can't you get paid for teaching medrash d'chsiv? Pasuk says, Moshe said to everybody, Moshe told everybody. This is in Baschanan. God commanded me at that point, Lamed is something to teach you. God told me to teach you. Moshe is reviewing. This is the beginning of Dvarim in Baschanan. When Moshe is reviewing everything that's happened, right? He's giving him a synopsis before he died. And he said, God commanded me to teach you everything. Uksivit, it says, see that I have taught you, the ordinances and the laws, kasher tzivani Hashem like God has commanded me. How is God mani b'chinam? Just like what? Afatem b'chinam. In other words, how did God command me? God commanded me. How did God command me? In the same way that God commanded me by teaching me the Torah, and he taught it me for free. I didn't have to pay for anything. I have to teach you also b'chinam. The point is just like, or mani b'chinam, just like I am teaching you b'chinam, right? I'm teaching you b'chinam, kasher sivan Hashem, just like God taught me, kasher sivan Hashem, mani b'chinam. You're also supposed to be taught for nothing. So the point over here is, so if that's the case, why do you say, okay, you're saying missions like this, why? Why can't you take from Medish? Why? Because it says that Hashem commanded me to teach you, God commanded me to teach you, just like he taught me for free. I'm also commanded to teach you for free. So you're supposed to learn Torah for free. So why so Mikra should also be for free. So you're right. So the Gemara's answer is you're right. That Torah, you're not supposed to take money for teaching Torah. You're not supposed to take money. Nobody's supposed to get paid. No rabbi, no teacher, nobody's supposed to get paid. We'll see. They're allowed to get paid for what they call schar bitol, because they couldn't go to work, get another job, so you can get paid for the time, for your time, but not for teaching Torah per se. In other words, I had a regular job. I was a stockbroker, whatever I made, $1,000 a week, whatever. So you can give me $1,000 a week because you're taking me away from my other job in that sense, but you can't get paid for teaching Torah per se. Okay. So the truth is you can't get paid for Torah at all. So how could you say over here that you can't teach him chumash because chumash sometimes people are paid for. Why is that? So Rav Meir Shapiro, no, it's what you're getting is for babysitting. Little boys tend to run out, tend to be wild. We'll see little girls not so much. Little boys tend to be wild. So you're getting schar for teaching them. When you teach them chumash, you're getting paid not for teaching them chumash, but simply babysitter. That's what I say. That in general, what is elementary school except babysitting? That's you just hope that they don't do too much damage by the time they get to high school, right? Just give me a little bit of by the time they finish, right? That's just their babysitting. That's what they get paid for. Rabbi Yochanan is schar pisuk tam. No, it's the schar for teaching them the trup. Pisuk tam is what they call the cantillation, the trup, the where the like the commas, so to speak, the trup, what we call the trup, all the way the punctuation in there. Okay, so that's what they get paid for. Meaning, for Torah, you can't take money. You can't take money for teaching Torah. So why do they get paid? So why did the Mishnah say even if Shimon can't give anah to Reuben, he can teach him Torah, but he can't teach him chumash? What's wrong? But chumash is also Torah. No, talking about we're teaching children either meaning for babysitting, you're getting paid to babysit, or teaching truck, which apparently is not Torah, not meta Torah. So let's understand. Tanan. So we have this machlokas Rav and Rabbi Yochanan. Now let's understand something. But even before we get to the kashas, the Ran right away points out. The Ran says, Rabbi Yochanan, why did he say schar pisuk tam? Isn't that minat Torah? So the Ran says, according to Rabbi Yochanan, that's not midaraisa. That's what the Ran says. That the trup is lav midaraisa. It's not midaraisa. Therefore, it's not in chukim mishpatim. The Torah, Moshe said chukim mishpatim, like God commanded me chukim mishpatim. I've taught you chukim mishpatim like God taught me. Just like I taught bechinim, I have to teach you bechinim. You're not supposed to get paid for that. He says that's not part of the Torah. The trup is not. The Ikabein Ran goes on right at the widest lines in the Ran. The Ikabein Rav Rabbi Yochanan. What's Rav Yochanan? Let's say you're teaching a chumash to a gadol, to a person who's bar mitzvah, not a child who doesn't need shimur. If he doesn't need shimur, then you can teach him chumash. Can you teach chumash to an adult? Yes, because the reason why you can't teach if Shimon can't give anah to Reuben, the reason why you can't teach Reuben is Reuben's a child, as we'll see. Reuben's a child and he needs to be watched, so he's getting paid for that. And if he doesn't take money, right? If he doesn't take money, then effectively he's giving him that money for free. It's a place where you get paid to go to watch the kids. He doesn't get paid. Okay, nafmin between Rabbi Yochanan. So if the reason is that when you say you can't teach chumash to a child who you're not supposed to give anah to, is because if he doesn't pay you, you're saving him that money, so you're giving him anah. That's fine by a child, but by a gadol, the lo boy shimur, then you'd be allowed to. But according to Rav, also the sfili pisgam deraisa. Rav says no. Rav says the pisuk tam deraisa you still can't teach him. You know why? Because Rabbi Yochanan says char pisuk tam, but Rav says that the pisuk tam is deraisa. The trup is deraisa. So if it's deraisa, it's part of Torah. Therefore, you can teach him because you can't get paid for that. There's no money involved in that. So what I know you're getting only a mitzvah deraisa. So the Lord Bashim to Rav also is feeling pisuk tam is deraisa, and therefore. What did he say again? Vika bein Rav Rabbi Yochanan mikol gadol the low boy shimur the Rav also this feel like pisuk deraisa or Rabbi Yochanan shari mishum schar pisuk tamim, right? Because it's schar pisuk tam, because he holds schar pisuk tam is not the oraisa, right? And therefore to a gadol you would be hilkach le'inyan alocha. Keeping the Kamlan Ran goes on to Rabbi Yochanan. In other words, in general, are you allowed to? We're not talking about here in the halach of Shimon. In other words, are you allowed to get paid to teach Torah? Generally, you cannot get paid to teach Torah. You can get paid for schar, but you can't get paid to teach Torah. According to Rabbi Yochanan, therefore, but Rabbi Yochanan holds that, according to Ran, that trup is not the oraisa. So let's say teaching bar mitzvah lessons. What we know, teaching bar mitzvah lessons, right? So that's not midaraisa. So therefore, you could get paid for that. Can you teach some? Can you teach somebody bar mitzvah lessons? You're teaching him the trup? Yeah, because that's not minat Torah. So it's not teaching him Torah per se. So you can get paid directly for. Of course, you can get paid anyway for schar bittul for the time, your loss of time. But can you get paid specifically for teaching? According to the way Ran learns in Rabbi Yochanan, yes, you're allowed to, because that's not Torah. That's pisuk tam. That's trup. That's like learning cantorial lessons. Somebody's giving you voice or singing lessons, right? You're going to the school of music, So for that, you can get paid. That's not Torah. But according to Rav, it would be also to get paid for that. Now, according to Rav, that Pesach Tam is Doraisa. So again, Rav says in our Mishnah, the problem is that the problem is only that you're getting paid for watching the kids, for babysitting. So again, back in our Gemara, we're asking why in our Gemara does we say that if Shimon can't give an out to Ruvain, we say he can teach him Torah, but he can't teach him Chumash. Why not? Chumash is also Torah. So Rav says the reason he can't teach him is because he's babysitting. Babysitting is what's also. The Yochanan says no, Pesach Tam not the Raisa. But just to point out, well, we'll come back to this later on. Tanan, let's leave our Mishnah. Lo Yondan Mikra. Our Mishnah says Shimon can't teach Ruvain Chumash. Bishlam Alaman Damar Schar Pesach Tamim. If the reason is because he can't teach him Torah, you shouldn't teach him that. I understand that because that's something that you can get paid for, and it's right. So that's why you shouldn't teach him that. Because you shouldn't teach him Chumash. There is no Pesach Tamim supposedly on. The trup is really basically on the Chumash, as we'll see, not so much on Nach. But in any case, if there was Pesach Tam in the Nach, maybe you couldn't teach him that either, because that's not Minat Torah according to Rabbi Yochanan, and therefore you're allowed to get money for it. And if you don't take money, you're giving him anah. That's why Mishnah says if Shimon can't give anah to Ruvain, he can't teach him. Elaman Domer Schar Shimur, if the reason is because of Shimur, because you're babysitting, Gadol Bar Shimur, we're assuming here Reuben and Shimon are Gedolim. Reuben forswore having an off from Shimon. So the reason why Shimon can't give an off is because he's babysitting. He's babysitting for Reuben, isn't he, Gadol? He says, no, the Gemara says Bekatan Ketani. It's a dochik answer, but he says, we're speaking about a cotton. Well, how can you not give an off to a cotton? So I was thinking either Shimon forswore giving an off to the cotton, to the child, or Reuven's father maybe was involved and said something. But in any case, Shimon can't give an out to the cotton. That's what we're speaking over here. That's why the Shimon cannot give an out to Reuven the cotton, because he's babysitting for him. And if he doesn't take money, he's giving him an out.
It's Reuven's child. Reuven's getting chalon.
Very good. So we're going to come to that. The Mishnah said, though, if you look back in the Mishnah on Lamed Hey and Beis, what did the Mishnah say there? Right, and then the next Mishnah, I thought it was in this Mishnah. Next Mishnah is going to say you can feed his kids because you're not giving him an directly. So children is not a problem of the one that you forswore having an off from. We're only talking about Reuben and Shimon. Reuben shows not a problem. The Gemara is going to deal with it now. But if we're talking about a cotton name, the Sefer said, Mikra. The Mishnah said over there, you shouldn't teach him Mikra, but you could teach his kids Mikra, as Berosav. You could teach his kids cotton barbonim. If we're talking about, if Reuben's a cotton, how could he have children, right? A cotton doesn't have children. So how could you say we're speaking about a cotton? Surah Melch is missing from the Mishnah. Mikra, you shouldn't teach Reuben Chumash. Why the cotton? According to Rav, reasons because you're babysitting. And if you don't get paid for the babysitting, you're giving him an off. If Reuben, was an adult, then Malamdo, you could teach him. Why? Because there's no babysitting involved, and it's only Torah. It's Chumash, it's Torah. You don't get paid for that, right? And lo ulavana melando lo ulavana mikra. Why are you allowed to teach his kids Torah? As we said in the Mishnah, that if you're only forsworn from giving hana to Reuven, but to his kids you can give hana, right? There's no problem. That's how we say machlokes how to learn the Mishnah. Again, Torah you never can get paid for. According to Rav, why can't you teach Chumash to the person that you're not supposed to give hana to? Because you're getting paid for babysitting. According to Rabbi Yochanan, the reason is because you're teaching him trup. Trup is not Minat Torah, according to the way Ran learns in Rabbi Yochanan. And Ran goes on to say that since we pass like Rabbi Yochanan, in general, not in the case where Reuben and Shimon can't have enough from one another. We're talking about a case in general. You're allowed to get paid to teach trup. Okay, that's what he says. But we're going to come out, if we'll have time, we'll explain later on what other Meforshim say. So now, the Gemara says like this. You shouldn't teach, in general, you shouldn't teach children trup for the first time on Shabbos. The first time they learn trup, it's very hard. Kadma, Azla, they get mixed up, Yershayim, all that. You shouldn't teach them on Shabbos, right? There's a lot of tircha involved, and it's extra work, and you don't teach them on Shabbos. If they've never learned it before, don't teach them for the first time on Shabbos, but because there's a lot of work involved. Okay. Elishonin avol. The Gersa should be probably avol. What's the Gersa as well? No, what's the gears? Oh, it's a base. It's right. I looked at the Gimel. Avol shonin, but they can review it. They can review it for the first time. In other words, the very first time they learn Trop, it's hard. It's hard to absorb. So they don't teach hard things like that on Shabbos. But if it's a review, you're allowed to. You're allowed to get. We're talking about teaching them and getting paid for them, getting paid to do that. So if the reason is you're teaching them Trop, I understand why you shouldn't teach them for the first time on Shabbos, right? In other words, if you're getting paid to teach them on Shabbos, Trop, that's a lot of work involved. That's the main point that you're getting paid is for that. In other words, let's say you were hired to give bar mitzvah lessons, right? You shouldn't do it for the first time on Shabbos because you're really getting paid for working on Shabbos. We'll talk about. We'll explain the whole thing. So you shouldn't teach the first time. A reviewing you could do because most of the money went for the first time, not for the review. The reason why you shouldn't teach the kids. The reason why you can't teach Chumash in our Mishnah is because of Trop. Because the first time you're learning Trop, it's very difficult. Now, Shiur, if the reason is because of the babysitting, so why do you say, if it's babysitting, why do you say you can't teach kids Chumash for the first time on Shabbos, but you could review with them? Right? Either way, right? You say why can't you teach them the first time on Shabbos, but you could review with them on Shabbos? Either way, it's Shimur on Shabbos. Either way, you're babysitting. Whether you're teaching them the first, if the reason is because of babysitting, what's the difference if it's the first time or the second time? Even if it was schar for teaching them the first time Trop, which is more difficult and a lot of tircha involved. What's wrong with teaching them on Shabbos? Havloi. It's what we call havlah. People who work on Shabbos, waiters and rabbis and everybody else who has a job on Shabbos. How are they allowed to get paid? The answer is what we call havlah. They're not paid just for Shabbos. They're paid for the whole week. They're paid in general, right? What we call a general salary or global salary in Hebrew. That global. I think that's the Hebrew. In Hebrew, global, right? Right. Global. I don't think they call it that in America. They call it global. Oh, global. Okay. All right. I thought they call it. Yeah. Okay. They call. I only remember that word from here. I don't remember globally. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay. Anyway, Tamech Schar Pesach Shabbos Miyaser Havloi. It's you're including it in the rest of the week. Havloi Mishra is mutter. The tiny Lenasachas of Paul. Here we're talking about specifically when things regarding the base of Mikdash. The Kohanim, they used to hire kids. Lishmor, so he hired somebody to watch the guard the child that he shouldn't become tamei, so that he could be involved in, that he could the water you get directly from a spring for the kiddush of the Mei Paraduma. So they would keep children from the young age, the little kohanim. They would teach them in a state of tahara. So you hired a worker to guard him, or lishmas apart to guard the paraduma, that no work should be done with him. Or lishmas as rum to guard the seeds for Havlas Omer. If you hired a guard for any of these things, and you hired him for Shabbos, lishmas as rum, ain't also Shabbos. If you just hired him for Shabbos, you can't do that because you can't pay him for Shabbos. Therefore, since you can't pay him Shabbos, if he was lost, if he lost on Shabbos, if he lost the stuff or he got ruined or something, and chai b'achrayis, because he's a shomachinum. You can't get paid for working on Shabbos. If somebody hired you just for Shabbos, you don't have to get paid for that. So therefore, you're a shomachinum, and he's not chai b'achrayis, unless it was if it was lost or stolen. He's only chai b'pshia. Shabbos, he was paid for the whole week. Schir chodesh for the month. Schir shana. This is a real globally, right? Schir shana was paid for the year. Schir was paid by the whole shemitah. Then those no Shabbos. Therefore, because he's working on Shabbos, he's allowed to work on Shabbos for you because he's working. He's getting paid a general salary, right? Just getting paid a regular full-time salary, and therefore not paid by the hour. He's paid paid by the week, by the month, whatever, by the year. Then he's working for you on Shabbos with every chayv and achrayas. So therefore, what do you mean you can't work for the first time on Shabbos? He's not getting paid for Shabbos anyway, right? He's not getting paid just for Shabbos. He's getting paid in general. Ella, right? 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 So the Elagab Shabbos. So what's the reason why Shabbos? Why you can't get paid just for learning and for teaching Chumash for the first time to kids on Shabbos? Elagab Shabbos on the time at the Ein Korban B'Tchilab Shabbos. We don't want to bother the kids too much on Shabbos with a more difficult subject like learning Chumash for the first time, because the reason is the Yifnu Avasan, their fathers should be free, the Basun the Yuka of these kids, the mitzvah of Shabbos. In other words, you want them to be able to have a non-Shabbos. You don't want to keep them occupied for long hours, etc. Teaching them a truck for the first time on Shabbos. The reason you shouldn't teach them on Shabbos is nothing to do with salary or getting paid or anything like that. The reason is because that the father should be free to spend time with them. The Ran says in Matinokas. How do you translate lishtashea?
Play.
Pardon? To play with them, to entertain them, right? To enjoy their time to them, right? You want to play with, entertain them. So that's what you want to do. Ibai saying, well, the reason the b'Shabbos is because on Shabbos they eat and drink a lot. We know v'yakir and alma, and they get very tired and sluggish. He says if you change your diet, people don't eat cholent the whole week and then they eat it on Shabbos. Then they what do they say? You sleep it off, and then when you wake up, you say Machayim Mesim, right? Because the beginning, when you change your diet, that's the beginning of stomach problems, right? Of digestive problems. So the reason you don't teach on Shabbos is because Shabbos they're tired and sluggish, etc. Or because you're supposed to be entertained and play on Shabbos. That's the reason why. There's nothing to do with this. Okay, so we're back to the Machlokas Rav Meir Shapiro. My time lo schar Shimon. Okay. Rabbi Yochanan said the reason why Shimon cannot teach Reuven, who he's not supposed to have an off from, he's not supposed to give an off to, is because the piece of Tamim is not the Oraisa, the way the Ran learns in Rabbi Yochanan. It's not the Oraisa, and therefore it's not Torah. Torah you can't get paid for, but you could get paid for teaching Trump. So that's why he says Shimon cannot give an off. Shimon cannot teach Chumash to Reuven, because he's giving him a because that's something he can get paid for. If he doesn't get paid, he's giving him a rebate. So my time, why didn't he say schar Shimon? Why didn't he just say this? Simple reason, because of babysitting. So ksavar benos mikaban Shimon. In other words, our gear says benos. The Ran had a different gear says gadol mikar Shimon. In other words, this answer we gave that Reuven was a cut was a little bit of a dochik answer, right? The general shot is that Reuven is a gadol and Shimon's a gadol, and Reuven can't have enough from Shimon. So if Reuven's a gadol, there's no shimur over here. You don't have to babysit a gadol. So how could you say you can't teach him chumash because he has to because he's getting paid for babysitting? He's not babysitting a gadol. Or the gears that we have is that girls don't run around so much, so they don't need babysitting. So and presumably he says you can't teach your sons or daughters, right? Learn their mikra. Malamadu is barnabas benosa of mikra. Girls also have to learn chumash. Interesting, right? Girls should learn also. So therefore, even though they're not mitzvah in the same way, they're not in the same mitzvah as boys, but also they should learn. They got to learn, how to keep the Torah. So therefore, he'd rather not say schishim because babysitting doesn't apply to girls or to adults. Okay, the one who says babysitting, why didn't you give that reason? Why say you talk about babysitting and only applies to children? Say the reason is you can't teach chumash because you shouldn't get paid for learning truck, which is not minat Torah. And therefore, you could get paid for it in theory, except in this case, since Shimon can't give a nod to Reuven, he'd be getting a nod if he doesn't get paid for it. He's effectively giving cash to Reuven. Savar p'sisa kam da raisa. He goes, no, Trup is minat Torah, is da raisa. Dam Ravika bar Avin Amar Chanan Amarav. The pasuk says in Yirmiyah, Vayikru b'sefer Torah Elokim. They read in the Torah Hashem Mefurash. Clearly, the Som Sechel, and they put their mind to it. The Avinu b'Mikra, and they understood the Mikra. Vayikru b'Avinu b'Mikra, and they understood what was written down. How do they darshan this pasuk? The first words Vayikru b'Sefer Torah Elokim Zeh Mikra. That's Chumash. Meforish Zeh Targum, the Aramaic Targum that we have, either Onkelos or Yosef ben Azil. The Som Sechel Ela Psukim, to know where the divisions of the Psukim are. If you look in the Tanakh, it doesn't have where the beginning of the pasuk and the end of the pasuk ends, right? So it doesn't say it beferish, but this is also Vayikru b'Sefer Elokim. They had to learn that, right? It's the Torah, the Chumash is the way it's written. Targum is the second thing they learn. Then they learn the Psukim, which is these holds Minar Torah. It's the Halachah Moshe Sinai. Because that piece of Tamim, that's the accentuation, or right, that, or the cantillation, as you want to call it, the trup, what we call the trup. So you see over here, psukim, the division of the psukim, and pisuk tam are two separate things. Psukim is the division of the psukim, where one pasuk ends and another pasuk, one where the pasuk ends, begins and ends. Pisuk tam is the trup. So some say these are the traditions that we have that we're going to talk about, the ksiv and the creed, that we'll mention in a minute. So at this, right. So now, so what did we say until now? I just want to point this out before we learn the last piece, that we said that according to Rav, we just said this, according to Rav, who gave the reason in our Mishnah why you can't teach Chumash is because of babysitting, and then it wouldn't apply to a gadol, obviously, because if there's no babysitting, you could teach a Chumash to a gadol. In other words, if Reuben can't have enough from Shimon, but Reuben is a gadol and Shimon's a gadol, so according to Rav, Shimon can teach them because it's Torah. It's no different than teaching Gemara or anything else. You don't get paid for that, and there's no babysitting involved. Why does he talk about trup? Because he also put trup as Doraisa. That's Torah. That's just like Chumash, just like Gemara, like anything else. So here he says that from the Ran, as we saw, the Ran and the Rosh Tosas, they all say that according to Yochanan, and we pass that Pixel is not Doraisa. So he says, so if it's not Doraisa, where did the trup come from? The Yesham, some say, even according to Rav Yochanan, Pisuk Tam Asmahu Min Torah. Even though the Ran doesn't hold the way, the Ran clearly said the Lab Midaraisi. The Ran, a couple of lines before the lines get wide to say Shavalam Lantam the Lab Midaraisi. According to Rav Yochanan, it's not Minatorah, but some say that's not Pshat Rav Yochanan. Yesham Sha'af L'Daito Pisuk Tam Asmahu. It's Minatorah. The trup is Minatorah. In other words, it's Allah Chumash Misinai. The Chaynor Zohar Shetami Amikra Nimsru L'Moshe Misinai. It says that in the Zohar. The Tami Amikra, that means the pronunciations and the way we the accentuations, the way we read it, the way we lane it is Allah Mashiach. To teach it, you don't have to learn it. You don't have to learn. It's not, you're not mechuyev you're not mechuyev to learn that. That is Minat Torah, but you're not mechuyev to learn it. And if you're not mechuyev to learn it, therefore it doesn't go into what we call Talmud Torah, which has to be for free. Mani bechinam afatem bechinam, right? Like we said on the top of the Gemara, matem bechinam, just like I learned Torah from Hashem, you were also supposed to learn Torah for free. So therefore, it is Minat Torah, but it's not mechuyev. You're not mechuyev to learn that. When you learn Torah, you're not mechuyev to know the trup. If you don't know the trup, you're still yosed the Torah, and therefore, Rav Yochanan says you could get paid for it because it's not. It is Menashe. It's Halach Moshe Misinai. The trup is Halach Moshe Sinai, but learning it is not Minat Torah. You're not mechuyev to learn it. They look up Sikkim Tameim. Therefore, if you teach, right, and therefore, if you teach the trup to somebody, you could get paid for it because it's not Torah itself that you have to get paid for. You're mechuyev to learn that, like you're supposed to learn Torah, but you don't have to learn the trup. Therefore, it could be. But that's not how the Ran learns. The Ran and other Rishonim learn Parshat Pshat that according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's not Minat Torah, and therefore it could be that it's only later on Ezra was Mataka the trup. Now the Gemara goes on to talk about this. We said Elu Masoros. These are traditions. What do we mean by that? If we say according to Rav, the divisions of the Psukim is the Pisuk Tamim, the trup is Minat Torah, and some say the Masoros are also Minat Torah. What do we mean by that? It's like Mikra Sofrim. The way the Sofrim taught us to read the Torah, all these things, and what do we mean by that? We're going to explain in a minute what that means. Mikra Sofrim, the Iter Sofrim, the fancy or the embellished way that the psukim are read, that the words in there, or v'kriv v'lo ksiv. There's two kinds of things. There's things that are written in the Torah, but we don't that are read in the Torah, but they're not written. That we see mostly in Nach, not in the Chumash. Uksiv v'lo, and things that are written but not read. Not talking about apparently, Michael, the things like in Kisavo, the Tishkavena, Tishkalena, where you read a different word, it says one thing and you read something else. But here we're talking about specifically where it's read, it's not even written. You say something, it's not written, or it's written and it's not read. All these things, halach mashmi sinai. That's what Yitzchak says. These are halach mashmi sinai. So that means to say the Masoros, like Rav saying that even Pisuk Tam is Doraisa, and some say even the Masoros, which we're talking about over here, that's all Doraisa. What do we mean by Mikra Sofrim? As we see, if you read Ashkenazis, so the word is Eretz, but it's if it's added as Snachta in the middle of the pasuk or at the end of the pasuk or self pasuk, how do you read it? Oretz, not Eretz, it's Eretz and Oretz. Or Shamayim Mitzrayim. And again, if it's at the end of the pasuk, it's Shamayim, right? Or Mitzrayim. Whereas if the middle of the pasuk, it's Mitzrayim. So that's what we call by mikra sofrim, the way they taught us. Iter sofrim, the embellished, the fancy way to read the psukim. Here, when you put it next to word, the pasuk says he gives a few psukim where he says here achar tavoru. He didn't have to say achar. Could have just said tavoru. Do this, and afterwards tavoru. He says after you're done with this tavoru. It's like a longer way of saying it to make it very clear, very explicit, to embellish the instructions. Achar telech. Again, it could have said it without all those things could have said without the achar, but that's it was just thrown achar tavoru achar tes. All these things. Kohani, the Ran says in the widest lines. The first one, Kohani Achar Mutara, they're extra. They know Tiferes to glorify the Lashon, like a fancy Lashon. The Havi Le'lemechta Sarulivchem V'Tavoru, eat and then go. It says Achar Tavoru afterwards. Tisargashem V'Teyasef, close for this and then get. No, it says V'Achar Teyasef. Kid Musharim Nognim, let the singers come before the minstrels, the players. But he says El Shnichtav Tiferes Lashon for a nice Lashon, like a nice, clear way of speaking. Achar Tavor, Achar Teos, Achar Teosef, Kid Mushar, Achar Nogim, Sit Kosra Kahare El. Ran Sadar could have said Kosra Kahare El, like it says afterwards, right? What does it say right afterwards? Kid Kosra El, because it Mishpatecha Tom Rabba. It didn't say Kid Tom Rabba. Could have said Hare El. But again, Lashon to say like to stop and say El could have been before. It's a fancier way of speaking. So that's what he says. Those are the examples of iter sofrim, like a crown around, crowning the words which are all min Torah. We're saying Tzalach L'Moshe Misinai. These like extra words in Tanakh. Now, some of these are in the Chumash, as we see some Bereshis and some are in Tilim in Nach. Okay, what about Kri V'lo Ksiv? What about something where we read it but it's not written? So that we don't have in Chumash, only in Nach. Pras de Belechto, the river Pras Belechto, it doesn't say it's read, even though it's not written. Ish de Kasher Yeshal Ish Bidvar Holokim, it doesn't say Ish, but we read Ish there. Boim de Nivnasa, right? That word is not, the word Boim is not written over there. What's the Bach say? Boim de Nivnasa, right? Doesn't say there. Law de Plato, doesn't say law there, but we read it anyway. At the Haged Hugad law. Right, Haged Hugad law. It doesn't say the word at there, but it says Haged Hugad. Eli da Goran. This is already in Rus, more familiar with us. Right? We read this. It doesn't say the word Eli, but we read it. Right, we're here speaking about where it's written, where it's read, even though it's not written. Eli da Som. That's also in Rus. Right, Halein Priviloxiv. All these are Priviloxiv. It doesn't say it, but we read it anyway. That's all Halach Mashmi Sinai. Uksavim Velokim. Where do we have Ksiv, or we don't read it? It says the word there, but we don't read it out loud. No, this is also in these are also in Ksuvim. I mean in Nach, not in Ksuvim. In Nach, this is not the Yislach, right? It says that by Naaman, it says no, but we don't read it. And I have an extra page in here, right? Zosta mitzvah. Now, Zosta mitzvah apparently is the Ran says on the top on the left side there is in Sefer Veschanan and Eschanan Kach Mitzasi Kasav Lo Nimtzu V'Sfarim Shalana, but we don't find it in our Sfarim that this is a Ksiv Lo Kri. So the Ran later on says no, it's not the Zos from Veschanan, but it's rather the Zos in Yirmiyahu. In Yirmiyahu, there's a Zos there that is a Ksiv, but we don't read it. Or Yidrach the Hadorech. It says there in that pasuk, that's a pasuk in Yecheskel, twice the word Yidrach. So the first one's read, the second one's not. That's Ksiv Lo Kri. Chamesh the Pas Negev. That word Chamesh, Pas Negev, also is, it says Chamesh Mosish. Only one of them is read. The second one is Ksiv Lo Kri. Pas Negev. Im Dechi Goel. Dechi Goel. This is already back in Rus, right? Ki im goel, right? This is it's written, but it's not read. We don't read the word im. So halein, these are all Ksiv Lo Kri. These are all Ksiv. According to Rabbi Yitzchak, these are all Lachmash Misena, which fits in with Rav that the Pisuk Tamim is the Oraisa, right? Rav said that all these things are the Oraisa. He went along with what he said that based on the pasuk V'Sefer Torah Solakim, that part of it is part of it refers to the psukim. Like it was said, mikra before said targum sham sechel ela psukim. And some say the Masoros, which Rav Yitzchak here explains, these are all lach mashibsina. Amar bracha, just one more lam bracha barada marava in Eretz Yisrael. Paskin ladeim psukim l'tfos psukim. They divided this pasuk in Yisro into three. So vayomer shema Moshe ne'anechi bo alecha ba'avanan ba'avur yishma ram ba'eged Moshe Svel. That's like a long pasuk, and he divides it into three. That's how they read it there. And as they had a different Masorah as to the piece of Talmud there, as to the psukim. Is that pasuk, is it three psukim or is it one? We have it as one pasuk, but he says that some people had a tradition that it was divided up into three psukim. In any case, the general idea is that the trup is the oraisa. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it's not. Apparently, the way the Ran learns of Rabbi Yochanan, but according to others, it really is the oraisa, but maybe the teaching of it is not the oraisa, and therefore you could get paid for it in general, unless getting paid for it in general, allowing that is a reason why if you can't get enough from somebody, you can't give enough to somebody, you can't teach them, because since you get paid in general, and if you don't take money for it, you're saving them that money and you're giving them handoff. All right, we'll take it from here tomorrow. Have a good day.
Yeah.